Next up is Renata Sankin. I don't know Renata all that well. I met her in person for the first time tonight, but I feel like I need to make her be my friend. I felt it even from just reading her materials and things that she sent me, but now that I've met her in real life, it is even more true. First of all, Renata is a teen services librarian, which is amazing. I know that there's more to that than being the Twilight librarian, but there it is. Secondly, she hosts a podcast with a really fabulous name, which is Worst Booksellers, and you know that obviously makes her the best bookseller. But most important, since I know most of our storytellers by the time I introduce them here, but those I don't know, I particularly like to stalk online in a very not frightening way. And when I was doing this gentle stalking of Renata, I discovered that she has a fantasy football league for, oh my God, RuPaul's All-Star Drag Race. It is a fantasy league for RuPaul's All-Star Drag Race, which I just cannot even handle what that means to, like, there's the best fantasy league I could possibly imagine. And then, to cement the idea that she might be my soulmate, this was what she described as her store. Her store is going to be called That's Cute. And it would sell exclusively things that I think are cute, that she thinks are cute. Just a cloying mix of Sanrio products, which is like Hello Kitty, a Claire's, a Target dollar spot, which anyone who goes to Target knows is amazing, and tiny versions of large things, and a lot of stationery, and a cafe where all the food has faces or is otherwise shaped like something cute. I can't even. If she had fancy cheese there, that would be like the most perfect store for me ever. So I'm hoping, this is Connecticut. Maybe there's an investor who might want to make this happen for Renata and me. Please welcome Renata Sankin.
So, as my friend Molly and I drove through the campground at Big Bone Lick State Park, we passed the mini golf course, and I pointed at it and I said, "Oh my God, I bet that mini golf course is totally haunted." And we both laughed because who ever heard of a haunted mini golf course? Now, my friend Molly and I, we first bonded in college over a shared love of like So Bad They're Good movies, like Rocky Horror Show and The Room. And then thank you. Then we realized that this sort of appreciation, like ironic appreciation for bad experiences, could go beyond movies and just into general outings. So we would do things like go to a small county fair specifically to see a performer called the Whip Guy, or to the Creation Museum in rural Ohio that has like full-length dioramas of the Garden of Eden, where it's Adam and Eve, but also dinosaurs. So when we heard that you could go on a ghost hunt at Big Bone Lick State Park, we signed up immediately. Now, Big Bone Lick State Park is in Kentucky, obviously. And the name comes from the fact that they'd found some preserved remains of woolly mammoths there, who are famously big-boned creatures. And then a lick is it's a geological term for when there's salt buildup in the ground and animals go and lick it. So you see, it's a perfectly reasonable name for a state park to have. And there's nothing hilarious about Big Bone Lick State Park. So I don't know why you're laughing. So we went to Big Bone Lick State Park, and at 10 o'clock, that was the designated meeting time for the ghost hunt. And up until we went to the visitor center, we hadn't really thought too much about who else might be going on this ghost hunt. And I think we assumed that there would have been at least a couple other people who were just kind of there for fun, maybe weren't totally bought into the whole like ghost hunt experience. But we were wrong. It turns out there are not a lot of ironic ghost hunters out there. Yeah. So we look around. There's about 20 people there and 2 professional ghost hunters who are leading us. And they start showing off their equipment. And we were a little bit familiar with some of it because we had seen the reality show Ghost Adventures. If you're not familiar, it's really fun, the Ghost Adventures. But everyone else seemed to be like very intimately familiar with this stuff, like an EMF meter, which measures the electromagnetic frequency, and if there's too much or too little of it or something, it means there's a ghost. There's like the fancy infrared thermometers because if it's very cold, there's probably a ghost. There's like digital recorders because sometimes if you're just in a room, maybe you don't hear ghost sounds, but then later on the tape, like you play it backwards or whatever, and there was a ghost. And then maybe like the most low-tech of the ghost hunting tools is just a pendant, like a necklace, and if you hold it out in front of you, you can ask a ghost yes or no questions. And if it spins counterclockwise, that means no, and if it spins clockwise, it means yes. Or there's a breeze. Hard to say. It definitely means one of those things. So we met at the visitor center at Big Bone Lick State Park, and we headed over to this old settlers church that was probably haunted. And we kind of divided up into groups, and Molly and I ended up with the pendant group, which that seemed like the thing we were most qualified to operate. So we're there, and the other ghost hunters are asking questions and trying to determine, well, first, if there is a ghost there, which obviously there was. And then secondly, they wanted to find out when the ghost had lived. So, and a little bit more about the ghost. So they're asking, like, were you a woman? Were you a man? And then it starts getting kind of weird, and they start asking, like, were you alive during the Civil War? Were you killed in the Civil War? Were you a slave? And we're like, this is too much to be asking this necklace right now. I don't know. And then they felt bad that they realized that they were hogging the pendant, and that Molly and I hadn't gotten a chance with it. So they asked us, oh, do you want to turn to ask a question? And my friend Molly, who's so smart, said no. But I took it, and I asked the ghost, well, do you like pizza? Which I felt was reasonable, because if you're trying to figure out when this ghost lived, maybe it lived a long time ago before pizza came to Kentucky, and then it would say no. But if it lived after pizza came to Kentucky, it would probably say yes, because everybody likes pizza. But the ghost did not answer, so that was inconclusive. And then after that, they took the pendant away from me, and I lost my pendant privileges for the rest of the night. But that was okay, because I didn't really want to communicate with a ghost that didn't like pizza. Doesn't seem like a good idea. So then we moved on from the church to the next haunted location in the park, which it turns out was the mini golf course. Because the mini golf course was built around an old graveyard, which is wild. I know. And it is absolutely where I would like to be buried after I die, is the graveyard in the middle of the mini golf course at Big Bone Lick State Park. So we're walking around there, doing our pendant questions, checking the temperature, all of this. In my opinion, not making any significant contact with the spirits. Some of our fellow ghost hunters felt differently. I don't know. But it was a fun night. We absolutely got what we wanted out of the experience. And then we went back to our tent in the campground and had a really peaceful night's sleep, just completely undisturbed by any pizza-seeking ghosts. And then in the morning, we woke up and, we're camping. So I went out to start a fire so we could have our coffee and our breakfast. And I don't want to brag, but I'm a Girl Scout. So I was fully prepared. I had everything I needed to start a fire. I had, matches. I had small wood. I had bigger pieces of firewood. And I had a copy of L. Ron Hubbard's book, Dianetics, the foundational text of Scientology. And I had recently had to read that book to do a podcast episode about it. And I'd had to purchase the book because no library near me had a copy, which I think is a great decision that the libraries made. But I still had to buy it, and then I just had this book that even my ironic enthusiasm for terrible things could not make palatable. It's very long, it's very distressing, it's not enjoyable on any level, and I owned it, so I wanted to burn it. And I felt like at this campground, it seemed reasonable. So I started making the fire, start ripping out pages of Dianetics to put at the base of my fire. And the thing about the campground at Big Bone Lick State Park is it's not very big. So as the morning went on, people kept coming out of their tents, coming out of their RVs. They're very close to us, and they look over and they see me shredding a book and burning it, and they're concerned. So people keep coming over to ask, do I need help making this fire? Do I need some more wood? They'll give me wood so I don't have to burn this book. What book is it? Is it the Bible? What am I doing here? And none of them are reassured when I tell them, oh, no, I'm fine. It's just Dianetics, and I just really want to burn it, and it's fine. And they would walk away, but you could tell they were just still worried about it. And I realized that all of those people were going to go home and tell their friends about me the same way that I was going to go home and tell everyone about the ghost hunters. And at first I was a little troubled by that, but then I decided to just sort of lean in and embrace it and just sort of go with the idea that we should all be the haunted mini golf courses that we want to see in the world. Thank you.